In 1983, Superman was back in a, well, not bigger, but definitely badder adventure. Faced with a computer genius, an evil businessman, and a giant lump of green crystal meth,
It's very nice. Thank you.
the Man of Steel meets the Man of Douche in Superman 3. As originally conceived, the first two Superman movies were meant to tell one story, even if it didn't quite end up that way. Superman 2 had been one of the more successful films at the box office in 1981, and so producers Alexander Solkind and the studio wanted more. Director Richard Lester returned. In our review of Superman 2, we mistakenly described him as English, when he was of course born and raised in the US, but based in the UK for decades, which apparently means he can never be British. It just depends on what you find more insulting, implying an American is British or insinuating an American is British. Just think how confused we'd be if he spelt his surname like this.
I can't have anyone with me who isn't with me.
Lester had of course made many films, but his early success helming the Beatles films Hard Day's Night and Help did display that comedic twinkle that a lot of his work is known for. Whether that anarchic approach was best suited to a comic book superhero film like Superman really does depend on whether you do it well.
Boy, this pate is really unusual.
That's Buster's dog food.
Superman 3 is not done well, and it's underdone to the point of it being a bad idea. Like making steak tartare, but you've only got chicken mince. And just like eating raw chicken, watching this film may also induce feelings of instant regret.
I ask you to kill Superman, and you're telling me you couldn't even do that one simple thing.
Superman 3 begins with a comedy, slapstick introduction that lets you know exactly what you're in for. It's actually really good at resetting your expectations if you've recently watched either or both of the first two films. Instead of, oh cool, this is going to be a great Superman film, you will know from the start that Superman 3 is going to be, well, I hope the fourth one will be better. Like what it says in the Starship Enterprise's manual about firing phasers while travelling at warp speed, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Unemployed man Gus Gorman takes a class on learning computers and finds he's a natural coding genius.
How do you do that? I don't know. I just did it.
He quickly gets an entry-level data processing job and proceeds to embezzle from his new employer, the millionaire businessman Ross Webster.
If there's anything I hate, it's greed.
I am also a natural coding genius, and you can play any of my apps on the App Store right now. Webster, contrary to what you might think, is not at all pissed off, and in fact sees potential in Gorman's genius. He tasks Gus Gorman with reprogramming a weather satellite to ruin the coffee crop of Colombia, because weather satellites apparently can do that if you ask them really nicely. Meanwhile, in the 21st century, getting a printer to print a piece of paper still requires prayer, alchemy and luck. I have found drawing a chalk circle around the printer helps invoke Kanon, the god of printing. Meanwhile, Clark Kent has returned to Smallville to attend his high school reunion, where he sees his high school crush, Lana Lang. Yes, Annette O'Toole, who would later play Clark's mother in the TV series Smallville, but it's not creepy, not at all. Webster's next gambit involves taking control of the world's oil reserves by taking over the oil tanker fleet, but he needs Superman out of the way.
Kryptonite.
They try to recreate kryptonite, but there's a tiny percentage of the stuff that they can't analyze, so Gorman just improvises. Their artificial kryptonite is less Krypton-like, more Krypton-light, but worse since it seems to have no immediate effect on Superman, like giving a hermit a breath mint. However, Superman's personality seems to be changing.
It's hanging off the side of the bridge and the driver's still in the cab.
Well, there's no rush.
But the bridge...
Oh, it's okay. I always get there on time. Come on, let's relax a little.
First, he's not interested in saving lives when he can make time with Lana Lang.
If only you'd got here a minute sooner.
And then he's ready to ruin the Olympics, ironic since that's what the Olympics have often done to the host city. He has an implied assignation with Webster's girlfriend in return for dealing with a rogue oil tanker. And then, of course, there's the comedy genius of Superman straightening the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and even better when he later returns it to its original angle. Superman 3's best scene comes from Superman hitting rock bottom. Well, as rock bottom as you'll get from a family-friendly film. So basically he gets about, 3 inches from the surface. He hits the cat poo halfway down the sandbox. After getting loaded and causing mischief in a dive bar, The man of douche confronts himself in a wrecking yard. Of course, it makes absolutely no logical sense, but it's cool. Superman's internal good nature, basically Clark Kent, wins the day by choking out the evil and divesting himself of his evil impulses. These days, we'd call that autoerotic asphyxia and hope we remember to set the timer properly. Either way, Superman is quickly cured and back to normal.
I'm sorry, but that wasn't me. That guy's gone.
Superman's costume had somehow darkened in his asshole state, curiously similar to modern films. Or maybe he just peed himself while he was hammered. It's a bit of a wasted opportunity that the super dickhead storyline isn't expanded upon, as it's by far the most interesting plotline in the film. But it's wrapped up neatly and all is forgiven pretty quickly.
I just don't believe a man can fly.
Webster and company head for the giant computer complex designed by a guy who had never even touched a computer at the start of the film. Superman shows up, but Gorman's creation has advanced defense mechanisms and its own mind. When people have a change of heart, the computer fights back, turning Vera Webster into a kind of zombie robot exoskeleton death machine. The cast are pretty good, doing their best to make a slight script work. Christopher Reeve brings dignity to a script that really doesn't deserve him. Clark Kent gets the girl without really having to chase her, and she's more interested in Clark than Superman. Annette O'Toole brings a believability to a character trapped in a small town, yearning for life in the big city, making minimum wage to live in a shoebox apartment with her son. Metropolis real estate being what it is, shoebox apartment rentals have gone through the roof, where a 90 square foot studio apartment with easy access to the subway can be very expensive, so she might need to think about charging her indolent son Ricky some rent.
Brad? Son of a bitch.
And now we can put to rest the mystery of what happened to Chuck Cunningham. He's stalking Lana Lang. Margot Kidder is barely in the film, just showing up before and after her vacation, depending on who you ask, and there's a lot of that about when talking about these films. Kidder's role was reduced after she spoke publicly about Richard Donner's treatment by the producers Alexander and Ilya Salkind. Without Lex Luthor, Robert Vaughn played a more comedic evil villain with his sister Vera in tow.
I've got to get rid of him.
But how? Shoot him? You know about him and bullets.
Comedian, actor and now therapist Pamela Stevenson played Lorelei Ambrosia, the ditzy villain's girlfriend, as in ditzy girlfriend of the villain.
How can he say that pure categories have no objective meaning and transcendental logic? What about synthetic unity?
Comedy superstar Richard Pryor was Gus Gorman. He'd apparently said how much he'd enjoyed Superman 2, and as he was a major draw at the time, pocketed a hefty chunk of the film's budget to appear. It's neither Pryor's best or his worst work, though few others could have made Gus any less irritating. He's just one of those characters. Most of the cast are really wasted in this film. I don't mean they're intoxicated, just that they're capable of more.
What are you looking at? Huh?
I've heard of people being traumatized by Annie Ross as Vera being turned into a machine in order to kill Superman, but maybe they had just mentally blocked out the sight of Superman trapped in a giant plastic scrotum. The script was written by David and Leslie Newman, who had written drafts of the first film before Richard Donner came on board, and their sensibilities combined with Richard Lester led to a painfully mediocre Superman film. The disco producer Giorgio Moroder provided some original songs which are thankfully barely there, with most of the score apparently provided by Ken Thorne, who'd previously done Superman 2's soundtrack. The lush cinematography of the first film is gone, the wit and sparkle of the first two films are gone, and the sense of invention is missing. Margot Kidder isn't even there, and all that's left is Christopher Reeve bravely trying to make this work. The humour only occasionally works, but more often than not grates on the nerves of anyone older than the age of 10. Look, of course, getting kids invested was a big part of the business plan. No one was seriously making these for miserable middle-aged folk.
You're right.
What? Oh, now you tell me. So all in all, Superman 3 unfortunately is a bit shitty, like using a supposedly clean diaper to mop up a coffee spill, but you grabbed it from the wrong bag.
Jesus Christ.
Superman 3 is watchable, mainly for Reeve and O'Toole. Richard Pryor's scenes seem to drag a little, mainly because it was felt the audience would want to see more of the comedian at his peak. The villains cohort are decent rather than amazing. This film feels like trying to drive a car without any wheels. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's definitely less than the sum of its parts.
You sit on molded plastic seats, molded to your well-fed behinds.
It can be a curse for a civilian to get close to Kryptonians. This guy, fired as a sheriff's deputy for incompetence when confronting General Zod, is now resorting to stealing cash from a faulty ATM. Next, the Salkinds would try something different, a spin-off starring Superman's cousin Kara in the 1984 film Supergirl, which was a film that was, let's just be nice and say, not particularly successful, and would lead to the Salkinds selling the film rights to Superman. Christopher Reeve would return to don his tights one more time in Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
Take it easy, man.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below or check out some of our other videos.
He'll keep a low profile, and he won't do a thing to call attention to himself. Unless, of course, he is a complete and utter moron.